Welcome to Customer Reviews Podcast.
Governor Cuomo of New York of sexual harassment. Cuomo's first accuser, Lindsey Boylan, tweeted, "Resign, you disgusting monster," as nearly 50 state lawmakers now say the governor should step down or be impeached. Cuomo says he's not going anywhere. But New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis on Twitter called out all the times he wanted Republicans to resign for sexual harassment claims. New York Post columnist Miranda Devine is a Fox News contributor. That was not a short list. Miranda, good to see you. We're up to 5 now, and it seems like this is becoming more bipartisan. Is it? In terms of the push against the governor?
Harris, it really makes no difference whether it's 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 or a dozen. He's not going anywhere. He's told us he's going to brazen through in his style of politics. Just being impervious, having the hide of a rhinoceros is an asset. He's seen other people, the Virginia governor, Ralph Northam, brazen it through. He saw Joe Biden, who had a serious sexual harassment assault allegation actually against him, and he prospered and went on with barely a blip to become president. So there's no precedent, and I think women ought to start realising that sexual harassment is merely a weapon of war in politics. It is used against people when it is convenient, and at the moment, Andrew Cuomo served his purpose. He was the anti-Trump candidate last year. He was held up by the media as the absolute model of pandemic leadership, simply because it was a contrast to Donald Trump and would do maximum damage to the president. And now he's of no longer any use, and he's white, he's male. There are progressive women of colour like Letitia James who are ambitious, and perhaps they want his job, and there are Democrats who are fed up now. They've kept their mouths shut through the time.
Passing President Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package over the weekend. It now heads the Senate passing President Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package over the weekend. It now heads to the House, and Eli Moy joins us now with more on that, and she can also weigh in on Oprah and the Royals if she would like to as well. Good morning.
Well, Andrew, I didn't get a chance to watch the interview because I was so busy following all the ins and outs of this relief package,
as you would,
which is now headed for a final vote. That's my drama. That's my drama. The bill is now headed to a final vote in the House after some last-minute haggling in the Senate over the weekend. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin held up this process for nearly 12 hours as he pushed to scale back that boost in jobless benefits. The amount will now be $300 a week instead of $400, but they'll last 1 week longer, ending on September the 6th. In addition, the first $10,200 in benefits will be tax-free for households earning less than $150,000 a year. Now, in the end, Democrats did hold the line and pass the bill Saturday afternoon. Republicans, they also stuck together, with every GOP senator voting against it. At the White House later, President Biden acknowledged that the politics weren't always pretty, but he said the relief was urgently needed.
This plan puts us on a path to beating the virus. This plan gives those families who are struggling the most the help and the breathing room they need to get through this moment. This plan gives small businesses in this country a fighting chance to survive.
Now, the House plans to vote on this package on Tuesday, guys. That gives the president plenty of time to sign this into law before those unemployment benefits run out at the end of the week. Back to you.
Okay, Elon, well, here we have a deal. Here we have a deal after all this time, right? When's the first time you got the check? When do you start having to look in the mail for the check?
Okay, so first the House does have to vote and the president does have to sign it, but right. Biden said over the weekend that he expects the checks to be able to go out sometime later on this month. What we saw in December, once the last COVID relief package was passed, was that it took about a week for those first checks to start hitting bank accounts. So, that seems like a realistic time frame. It could take a little bit longer if you're actually receiving a paper check in the mail, though.
And what about checks to school systems and municipalities and states that are going to distribute all this money? I mean, one of the great debates about this was just how much of it gets spent today versus getting pushed out to 22, 23, and 24 and beyond.
Yeah, so there is a lot of discussion about that, and it's unclear exactly how fast some of this money will get to school systems, and even if all the money were to arrive tomorrow, how quickly they could spend through that. Some of the arguments for that is that some of this money was intended to be spent over time. You think about unemployment benefits, for example. That's something that you need a big pot of money because it gets drawn down over the course of, several weeks or months. It's not something that someone gets in one lump sum. So some of these dollars will take some time to work through the system. Democrats say that's intentional. Republicans say that's a sign that some of the money may not be as necessary and as urgent as President Biden likes to argue.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC.
Every family, regardless of income, regardless of race, regardless of neighborhood, regardless of zip code, we need a recovery that reaches everyone. And there is nothing more essential to our recovery than bringing back our public schools. This is the essence of why New York City is great, our public schools. Families depend on them. Everything revolves around our public schools. So we're moving aggressively to bring our schools back now and fully in September. I'm going to turn to Chancellor Misha Ross Porter in a moment, and you'll hear her focus and enthusiasm for bringing back schools. But first, let me give you some really important announcements. Obviously, we've had kids in younger grades